baby. 12 o'clock.
If Baby's Day Out came out now instead of in the 90s, it probably would have been killed before it ever came out and became a legend. A baby crawls across the city. 3 grown men get crushed like cartoon characters, taxis, the zoo, construction sites, and scenes that today would probably make the whole studio sit down with lawyers before daring to shoot them. But the real question is, where are those faces now? Especially Baby Bink. The baby who was too young to have lines, but powerful enough to make an entire generation remember him forever. In this video, we're going through the 10 most important faces from Baby's Day Out, including one person I believe 90% of fans don't even know was in it. And stay until the end, because I've got 5 weird behind-the-scenes stories just for the real fans. Are you ready? Number 1, Adam Robert Worton and Jacob Joseph Worton as Baby Bink. I believe anybody who clicked on this video is curious about one thing. What happened to the baby who played Baby Bink back then? But not everyone knows there were actually 2 little boys who shared that role. Adam Robert Worton and Jacob Joseph Worton are twin brothers born in 1992 in Newark, Delaware. When Baby's Day Out came out in 1994, they were only about 2 years old. This year, both of them are 34. In the movie, they both played Bennington Austin Bink Cotwell IV, the 9-month-old baby who basically turned the whole city upside down just by crawling out of his stroller. You might think a 2-year-old kid already got the role of a lifetime in a big Hollywood movie, so his career afterward must have been huge. A few more family movies, a few commercial deals, then growing up into a familiar child star. But no, Adam and Jacob pretty much did not continue acting after Baby's Day Out. For them, this movie was not a door into a long career. It was more like one very bright flash, lighting up, once then leaving a shadow that has lasted more than 30 years.
But it's only a few even, because we were just so similar. I don't remember anything. I just see pictures.
That was me, and I guess that probably happened.
What's strange is that people do not remember them first by their real names. The public remembers them by just one name, Baby Bink. Even years later, when the University of Delaware mentioned that the brothers had graduated, the story still got pulled back to that movie. Adam studied apparel design, while Jacob studied hotel, restaurant, and institutional management. In simpler terms, one went into design and the other went into restaurants, hotels, and service. That is not the usual path for a face that once appeared on screens around the world. I do not see any loud downfall here, and honestly, that makes this story even more interesting. Hollywood has had too many kids who became famous too early, then paid the price for growing up under lights that were way too harsh. So what do you think? Did they miss out on a huge career, or did they choose a smarter path than most kids Hollywood called too early? Today, Adam and Jacob no longer live like screen kids. They are more private, more ordinary, and they are still remembered most because of Baby Bink. Number 2, Verne Troyer as Baby Bink's stunt double.
Big Break was a movie called Baby's Day Out. I was a stunt double for...
Do you recognize this face in Baby's Day Out? If not, that's understandable, because Verne Troyer was not the person standing in front of the camera for the audience to remember. He was one of the people behind the image of Baby Bink that we thought belonged to only one baby. Verne Troyer was born in 1969 in Sturgis, Michigan. When Baby's Day Out came out in 1994, he was 25. Before Hollywood knew his name, Troyer was still doing customer service over the phone. Then a friend called him about a strange opportunity. The crew needed someone to stunt double for a baby. They needed someone small, quick, and able to stand in for a 9-month-old baby in scenes no one should ever make a real child do. Adam and Jacob Worton were still the main faces of Baby Bink, and that does not change. But in a movie, with scenes of a baby going through the city, the zoo, a construction site, and all kinds of dangerous situations, the crew needed several layers of protection behind the scenes. After this movie, Troyer did not instantly become a star. He kept going through small roles, stunt work, and little by little worked his way into Hollywood through movies like Dunstan Checks and Men in Black: Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Then in 1999, everything changed. Troyer became Mini-Me in Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me. Troyer did not grow up with luxury. He was born in Michigan in a family that did not have much, with parents who worked in a factory, and his family had Amish roots. At home, he was not treated like a fragile person who needed protection. He still had to do chores, carry firewood, and take care of livestock like everyone else. After becoming famous, he had to live under the shadow of Mini-Me. In 2008, his private life was dragged into public when a private video leaked. He also struggled with alcohol for many years. In 2017, he spoke publicly about his battle with alcoholism. In 2018, he was hospitalized after an incident reported as poisoning. Not long after, on April 21st, Verne Troyer died in Los Angeles at only 49. The official conclusion said his death was related to alcohol intoxication and was ruled a suicide. Number 3, Joe Mantegna as Eddie. Now we get to Eddie the kidnapper, who thought he was the brains of the whole plan, but ended up being completely humiliated by a baby. Joe Mantegna was born in 1947 in Chicago. When Baby's Day Out came out in 1994, he was 47. This year he is 79. In the movie, Eddie seems like the most serious one of the kidnapping trio. He talks like the guy in charge looks like he has a plan, but the more he chases Baby Bink, the more he looks like a man being defeated by his own confidence.
It's not the broad kind of comedy that Baby's Day Out is, but it's more in the...
Before this movie, Mantegna was not a newcomer. He already had standing on stage and had won a Tony Award and a Joseph Jefferson Award for Glengarry Glen Ross. After Baby's Day Out, he did not get stuck in the image of Eddie. He became Fat Tony on The Simpsons for decades, then later David Rossi on Criminal Minds, a role that made TV audiences remember him in a very different way. By 2026, he is still connected to Criminal Minds' evolution. Mantegna's life has not been scandal-loud, but it has not been light. When he was young, he had rheumatic fever. His father lost one lung to tuberculosis. Later, his first daughter, Mia, was born. Premature, weighing just over 1 pound, had to stay in intensive care for months and was later diagnosed with autism. Mantegna did not turn that into a pity story. He and his family kept going, and later he spent a lot of time supporting organizations connected to autism. He also had Bell's palsy in 1988 during a high-pressure stage production, but Mantegna still got back up, kept working, and kept his family together. He has been married to Arlene since 1975, which is no small number in Hollywood. But Eddie is only one part of the trio. The next guy is even more nervous, louder, and in real life had to fight much heavier darkness. Number 4. Joe Pantoliano as Norby. Norby is the most panicked one of the 3 kidnappers, but Joe Pantoliano's real story is way more intense than anything he played in the movie. Joe Pantoliano was born in 1951 in Hoboken, New Jersey. When Baby's Day Out came out in 1994, he was 43. This year he is 75. In the movie, he plays Norby, one of the 3 guys who kidnapped Baby Bink. But Pantoliano is not the kind of actor who just had one fun supporting role and disappeared. After Baby's Day Out, he became one of Hollywood's most familiar supporting faces. Men who love American movies have definitely seen him somewhere. Francis Fratelli in The Goonies Cypher, in The Matrix, Teddy in Memento, Ralph Cifaretto in The Sopranos. Then Captain Howard in the Bad Boys series. The role of Ralphie even won him an Emmy. In 2024, he was brought up again in Bad Boys Ride or Die. By 2026, he also appears in Wonder Man as a fictional version of himself, and the interesting thing is that inside that character's mansion, there is even a Baby's Day Out poster. But the most memorable part of Pantoliano is not on a poster. He once said clinical depression almost destroyed his life. He went through years of self-medicating with alcohol and dangerous behavior rooted in childhood trauma that had never been dealt with. That crisis put pressure on his family, and at one point, his dogs were what helped him hang on to life. In 2007, he was diagnosed with clinical depression. Instead of staying silent, Pantoliano talked openly about it. He wrote the memoir, Asylum, talking about depression, addiction, recovery, and founded No Kidding Me Too to fight the stigma around mental illness. To me, that is worth respecting, especially for a man from a generation that was often taught that when you hurt, you just grit your teeth and take it. Then in 2020, he was hit by a car while walking in Connecticut. He injured his leg, head, and chest needed stitches and was monitored for a concussion. The later lawsuit also mentioned a concussion, permanent hearing loss in his left ear, back injury, and post-traumatic stress disorder. But the kidnapping trio still has one final piece, the biggest guy, the one who takes the most punishment. And in real life, had a past very different from Hollywood. Number 5, Brian Haley as Vico. And now we come to Vico, the biggest guy in the trio, the man who almost seems born to get absolutely wrecked by Baby Bink and this entire city. Brian Haley was born in 1963 in Seattle, Washington. When Baby's Day Out came out in 1994, he was 31. This year, he is 63. In the movie, Vico is the muscle of the kidnapping group. But in real life, Brian Haley's road was not smooth at all. Before Hollywood, he did heavy physical jobs like ranch hand logger and haybuck. Then he served in the U.S. Army Special Forces, the Green Berets, from 1980 to 1985. He also received a Letter of Commendation and the Army Achievement Medal. After the military, Haley turned to stand-up comedy in Seattle, then moved to Los Angeles. In 1988, he won the Hollywood's Hottest New Comic competition. In the early 90s, he appeared on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. And for American men who grew up with late-night TV, getting on Carson's stage was no small milestone. After Baby's Day Out, Haley did not become an A-list star, but he maintained a very steady supporting actor career. Audiences may remember him from Little Giant's Wings, Mars Attacks, The Departed, and Gran Torino. He is the kind of face you might not name right away, but when you see him, you have seen him somewhere before. Haley's private life has no major credible scandal. He has been married to Marjorie since 1987 and has 5 children. He also supports World Vision and once sponsored a child in Zimbabwe for more than 15 years. Vico in the movie is the muscle guy defeated by a baby. Brian Haley in real life is someone who moved through hard labor, the military comedy family, and Hollywood with a kind of endurance that is seriously worth respecting. Number 6, Lara Flynn Boyle as Lorraine Cotwell. Lara Flynn Boyle was not just Baby Bink's mother. For a lot of men in the 90s, she was one of the most unforgettable faces of that era and also one of the people tabloids chased the hardest. Lara was born in 1970 in Davenport, Iowa. When Baby's Day Out came out in 1994, she was 24. This year, she is 56. In the movie, she plays Lorraine Cotwell, the young, wealthy, elegant mother who nearly falls apart when her baby son is kidnapped. Before Baby's Day Out, Lara had already broken through in a big way as Donna Hayward in Twin Peaks. After that, she appeared in Wayne's World, The Practice Men in Black 2, and was nominated for an Emmy for playing Helen Gamble. For middle-aged male viewers, Lara is a very 90s kind of face, beautiful, cold, sharp, with a little mystery. In Men in Black 2, she also became a seductive and unforgettable villain. But in real life, Hollywood was not gentle with her. Lara was a tabloid target for many years. They picked apart her body, her age, her love life, especially her on and off relationship with Jack Nicholson, who was 33 years older than her. She also said she had gone through situations that belonged to the Me Too wave, had walked out of inappropriate meetings and had to deal with the consequences, though she did not name the people involved. After she married businessman Donald Ray Thomas in 2006 and worked less, the cameras still would not leave her alone. At one point, she was photographed while taking out the trash. A photo of her in a car with a bottle of Johnny Walker was also turned into a sensational headline. I do not like telling this story to pick at her. On the contrary, it shows how the media used to treat many actresses when they got older, changed, or stopped being the image the public wanted to keep forever. In 2024, Lara appeared in Mother Couch, her first movie, after 4 years. She did not like people calling it a second chance because, as she said, she is still here. And standing beside her in the Cotwell family is Baby Bink's father, a quieter face but one with a very Hollywood kind of steady career. Number 7, Matthew Glave as Bennington Cotwell. Matthew Glave does not get a lot of screen time in Baby's Day Out, but he has exactly the kind of face Hollywood always needs. You see him once, and he feels familiar, but you do not always remember his name. Matthew Glave was born in 1963 in Saginaw, Michigan. When Baby's Day Out came out in 1994, he was 31. This year, he is 63. In the movie, he plays Bennington Cotwell, Baby Bink's father. This is not a laugh-getting role, like The Three Kidnappers, but it does hold an important part of the story, the wealthy father living in a big house with money staff and the appearance of having everything under control until his son is kidnapped. That is what makes Bennington interesting. He has all the things men usually think will help them protect their family, but in the worst moment, all of it is useless. Money, status, the beautiful house, none of it helps him bring Baby Bink back right away. After this movie, Matthew Glave did not become an A-list star, but he did something a lot of actors cannot do. He lasted in the business. Audiences may remember him as Glenn Goulia, Drew Barrymore's awful fiancé in The Wedding Singer. He also appeared in Picket Fence's ER charmed rock star Stargate SG-1 and later showed up in Argo First Man and The Rookie. That is a career that is not loud, but very steady. Glave's private life has gone in that same direction. No major credible scandal, no public collapse for people to pick apart. He has been married to actress Anita Barone since 2000 and has 2 children. In one interview, he once said he was surrounded by strong women, his mother, grandmother, wife, and 2 daughters. He also said his wife made him a better person. Today, Matthew Glave is still working. Newer audiences may know him from The Rookie as Oscar Hutchinson. Older audiences may remember him from Baby's Day Out or The Wedding Singer. To me, he is the kind of supporting actor who makes Hollywood feel more real. Number 8, Cynthia Nixon as Gilbertine. In The Cotwell House, she is just the nanny Gilbertine. But later, Cynthia Nixon became Miranda Hobbs, one of the most famous women on American television. Cynthia Nixon was born in 1966 in New York City. When Baby's Day Out came out in 1994, she was 28. This year, she is 60. In the movie, Gilbertine takes care of Baby Bink at the start of the story, and she is also tied to the Baby's Day Out book, the thing that almost accidentally becomes the map for the baby's adventure afterward. The role is not big, but watching it again today, a lot of people will be surprised. That is Miranda, before Miranda became an icon. After this movie, Nixon did not stop at small supporting roles. She became Miranda Hobbs in Sex and the City, a role that went straight into television history. Then she kept working as an actress, director, and producer and won an Emmy, Tony, and Grammy. She also returned in And Just Like That, while playing Ada Brooke in The Gilded Age, a series renewed for season 4 in 2025. But her life has not just been red carpets and awards. In 2006, Nixon was diagnosed with breast cancer after a routine mammogram. At first, she kept it private because she did not want paparazzi showing up at the hospital. After that, she had a lumpectomy and 6.5 weeks of radiation. Her mother had also had breast cancer, so when Nixon made her story public in 2008, she was not only talking about her own illness. She became a voice helping other women pay more attention to health screenings. Nixon's personal life has also been very public. In 2012, she married Christine Marinoni in New York. In 2018, she shared that her son Samuel, also called Seth, is transgender. That same year, she ran for governor of New York, challenging Andrew Cuomo in the Democratic primary. She lost, but she did not disappear. Gilbertine in the movie only reads to Baby Bink. Cynthia Nixon in real life went on to write a much bigger story, illness, theater, television, politics, family, and a career that refuses to stand still. Number 9, John Neville as Mr. Andrews. In the middle of a movie full of screaming, falling, and 3 stupid kidnappers, John Neville walks in as if he came from a Shakespeare stage in a completely different world. John Neville was born in 1925 in London. When Baby's Day Out came out in 1994, he was 69. He died in 2011 at age 86. In the movie, Neville plays Mr. Andrews, a polished gentleman in the Cotwell home. The role does not get big laughs, and he does not run across the city like the other characters, but his presence gives the Cotwell house a classic, elegant, and slightly distant feeling. What is worth saying is that John Neville was not just some ordinary old supporting actor. Before appearing for a few minutes in a John Hughes family movie, he already had an entire stage life behind him. He served in the British Royal Navy during World War II, then studied at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. Neville was tied to classical theater, especially Shakespeare, and was known for roles like Hamlet, Richard II, Othello, and Iago. In Britain, he was once a major face of the Old Vic, seen as the natural successor to John Gielgud. Later, he moved to Canada with his family, became a Canadian citizen, and held important artistic positions at Citadel Theatre, Neptune Theatre, and Stratford Festival. He did not just act, he helped build theatre. For American audiences, Neville may be easier to remember from The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, where he played Baron Munchausen himself, or from The X-Files, where he played the well-manicured man. So Baby's Day Out is only a small slice of a career that lasted more than 60 years. Neville's private life had no major scandal. He married Caroline Hooper in 1949 and had 6 children. Late in life, he had Alzheimer's. For someone who lived through dialogue, stage memories, and classical roles, that gives his story a very particular sad note. John Neville died in Toronto in 2011. He left behind a legacy much bigger than Mr. Andrews' War Shakespeare British Theatre, Canadian theatre fantasy film, American television, and a very rare gentlemanly quality. And after a stage man like Neville, today's final face takes us into a completely different kind of life. Hollywood television law Watergate, the United States Senate, and a battle with illness at the end of his life. Number 10, Fred Dalton Thompson as FBI agent Dale Grissom. In Baby's Day Out, Fred Thompson only arrives to investigate a kidnapping. In real life, he once stood close to one of the biggest political scandals in American history. Fred Dalton Thompson was born in 1942 in Sheffield, Alabama. When Baby's Day Out came out in 1994, he was 52. He died in 2015 at age 73. In the movie, he plays FBI agent Dale Grissom, the man who steps into the Cotwell house after Baby Bink is kidnapped, and represents the official investigation side of the story. The interesting thing is that Thompson did not have to try to act powerful. He already had that presence in real life. Before audiences knew him through movies and television, Thompson studied law at Vanderbilt, worked as a lawyer, and was chosen as counsel for the Republicans on the Watergate Committee in 1973. In other words, he did not just play men standing in investigation rooms. He had actually been in rooms where America questioned itself. Hollywood came to him in a very strange way. The movie Marie in 1985 was based on a real case Thompson had been involved in as a lawyer, and he was cast to play himself. After that, he kept appearing in many films with a very clear air of authority, like No Way Out the Hunt for Red October, Die Hard to Cape Fear, and In the Line of Fire. With Thompson, Hollywood did not invent his authority. Hollywood just borrowed it. In the same year Baby's Day Out came out, his life entered a much bigger chapter. In 1994, Thompson was elected to the United States Senate representing Tennessee, then held that seat until 2003. After that, television audiences also came to know him as Arthur Branch on Law and Order. He also ran for president in the 2008 election cycle. Thompson's private life does not need to be told like gossip. The heaviest part was his health. In 2004, he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. The illness went into remission, then later returned. On November 1, 2015, Fred Thompson died in Nashville at age 73. Dale Grissom in the movie investigates the Baby Bink case. Fred Thompson in real life was a lawyer, Watergate Council actor, senator, presidential candidate, and television star. He closes today's list in a very strange way from a family movie about a lost baby we have gone through, child stars, a stunt, double comedians, television stars, classical theater, and finally, a man who once stood between Watergate and the United States Senate. But before we close it out for good, I want to save a small gift for those who still love Baby's Day Out after more than 30 years. The cast is already strange enough, but the behind-the-scenes stories of this movie have a few things that made even me sit up straight. Are you ready to hear them? And with that, we have just gone through 10 faces from Baby's Day Out, from Baby Bink, the stunt double behind the difficult scenes, the three poor kidnappers, the Cotwell family, all the way to the FBI guy whose real life feels like a political movie. But if you are still here, I am guessing this movie is not just an old title to you. It is a piece of childhood. So before we close, I want to save a small gift for those who still love Baby's Day Out after more than 30 years. No more Hollywood tragedy, no more heavy private lives. Now, it is a few strange, fun, slightly hard to believe behind-the-scenes stories, very much in the spirit of a movie critics tore apart but audiences kept alive. The first thing that may surprise you is that this movie was not cheap at all. It was not some tiny family movie shot for fun and tossed into theaters. Its budget reached around $50 million. For 1994, that was a very heavy number, especially when the cast did not have a box office superstar at the top of the poster. From the outside, we see a baby crawling around the city and three men getting beaten up. But behind that was a large, expensive production full of difficult scenes, full of technique, and much more ambitious than its innocent look suggests. And maybe because the movie was bigger than it looked, it also created one of the funniest critical debates of that time. Gene Siskel usually did not like movies that put young children or babies in dangerous situations. And yet, with Baby's Day Out, he liked it. Roger Ebert did not. And Ebert was annoyed enough to tell Siskel that he should be ashamed of himself. If you have ever watched those two argue, you know it was almost like a little boxing match on television. Later, that argument became a famous video on the internet, the perfect proof that this movie has always made people argue. But the tense moments did not only happen on television. Right behind the movie, the journey of making it was not smooth either. John Hughes, the very big name behind the movie, was originally heavily involved during pre-production, but halfway through filming, he almost pulled back, leaving many people in the cast and crew disappointed. Part of the reason sounds very Hollywood strange. Hughes was trying to get another script of his movie called The Bee, an unproduced action comedy about a bee that keeps bothering a developer who is close to finishing a new project. And when the writer and producer gradually steps away like that, you can guess the editing room could not be peaceful. John Hughes and director Patrick Red Johnson argued a lot over different cuts of the movie. The interesting thing is that this was not a case of two people hating each other and trying to destroy each other. They still respected each other and still tried to behave politely. But when a movie is too expensive, too difficult, has a baby, has box office pressure, and has two different creative visions, politeness also has limits. In the end, the pressure made them choose to cut that part and end the whole thing. And after all of that, you would think Hollywood probably did not want to return to Baby Bink anymore. But actually, there was once a plan for a sequel called Baby's Trip to China. The title sounds like a VHS poster I would have really wanted to see on a video store shelf back in the day, but that project was ultimately canceled. We will never know how Baby Bink would have crawled across China or how much bigger, more expensive, and more insane Hollywood would have made it. And those are the 10 faces and 5 small stories behind Baby's Day Out. This movie may not have won over critics, but I will be honest, some movies do not live by scores. They live by how we remember where we watched them, who we watched them with, and how old we were. So let's treat the comments section like the final trial of Baby's Day Out. The prosecution has plenty of reasons to convict the movie was too expensive, too ridiculous. The 3 kidnappers were unbelievably dumb, and a baby survived an entire city as if he had his own personal angel following him. The critics back then were not gentle with it either. But the defense has very strong reasons too. Baby Bink made millions of people laugh. Those 3 kidnappers are still stuck in the memory of an entire generation. And more than 30 years later, we are still sitting here talking about this movie. To me, that is not failure. That is a very strange kind of victory for a 90s family movie. So what is your verdict? Is Baby's Day Out guilty of being way too silly, or not guilty because it became one of the most memorable childhood movies? And if you were called to put one scene on the witness stand to defend this movie, which scene would you choose? Leave your verdict below. And if you like digging up strange secrets behind old movies, subscribe to Weird Movie Secrets. I will see you again in the next movie trial.
But there is something interesting about the shows that live the longest in our memories. The more familiar they feel, the easier it is to think we already know everything about them. But behind it, there is an entire layer of backstage stories that many viewers have never heard. So today, we are heading back to Hazard County and uncovering the most fascinating secrets behind the Dukes of Hazzard. And trust me, a few of them may make you see this series in a completely different way.